Hi everyone, my name is Tiulipe and this is Lois. Our critical summary is based on Chapter 10, Common Techniques for Analyzing Data that Feminist Researchers use in a self-reflexive way that is compatible with feminist research ethics. Throughout this chapter, we are constantly transforming these techniques into tools, analytical tools that are used by everyone. We examine what is actually involved in applying each technique as a tool. With this process, we acknowledge the commonalities across methodologies which lead us to recognize the necessity to make implications of our feminist reflections clear. This is so we can execute them better. The process of collecting data and producing it leads us to questioning how you would analyze it, and with the vast information in different forms, how you would organize and manage it. Because with analysis, we convert data into findings, we manage and make sense of our collected data. Analytical tools are not just tools, they are instruments used in our basic form of learning. However, with that being said, we must understand what analysis is. What is analysis? In order to understand the functions of these analytical techniques, we must understand what analysis means. Analysis is the mechanics of creating an argument. It is a process, active and ongoing. And what some do not realize is within our own research, analysis begins with the formation of our research question. Its functions allows us to mediate, follow, conclude, form, gather, and interpret the results of the research you have undertaken. This portrays how these techniques have been used in a feminist-informed research and how these techniques are employed to make sense to an argument regardless of what type the data is. These techniques show how they contribute to the analysis of different research designs and how they may be adapted by feminist research ethics. This leads us to the 10 analytical techniques in making an argument, discussing how each technique contributes to the analysis of different kinds of data. A feminist research ethic prompts us to notice how we analyze. It can also guide us to recognize the unintended epistemological biases that are included in the ways you favor on a certain kinds of information or data in your analysis. With this, we are urged to form questions that are transparent in order for the problem to be addressed and positioned. Description is the first technique. It is a form of analysis that involves telling a story which, however, must make sense with the data that has been collected. With description, we identify the different forms that are techniques of data collection that facilitate description as a mode of analysis. These forms can be found in memoing, note-taking, and coding. Feminist research ethics alerts us to the interactive and the interpretive processes. It encourages and supports the reflection in memos and field notes and how this affects your interpretation of data. Next is illustration. This is a tool that helps us analyze our data. This is often a useful technique that allows universal findings to be more meaningful. In that sense, compared to description, which is an analytical technique which converts data, illustration also reveals patterns and stories that are concealed within data. An interesting concept is that illustration may also lead us to further cross-examine the boundaries inscribed in our analysis by the type of method we use. Triangulation is the next technique. This is used with two meanings. First, under the mixed model research design, which is the study of data based on two or more methods of generating similar data. The second is using different sources of evidence in regards to a single research design. This prompts the questions whether your data from 3 or more different sources, whether primary or secondary sources, can be interpreted into saying the same thing. And does the triangulation data confirm one of your hypotheses? A feminist research ethic encourages us to explore non-conforming data further. And although feminist research ethic will not prescribe any particular method of analysis, it, however, requires that a given method be able to expose and simplify dynamic meanings.
The next one is comparison. Another analytical technique is comparison. It is frequently used as a form of analysis within cases in any number of designs. We study our data to know what's different here compared to what exists in literature, data, or cases say. In feminist research, we should also compare analysis with one done to our subject participants. Attentiveness to the power of differentials is very important. This technique helps us to discover what is distinctive about our study and help us to explore the causal mechanisms in our study. When you're trying to isolate the mechanism that might help you to explain your question or explain a puzzle, comparison might enable you to establish conceptual distinctions between your data and existing knowledge. The next one is contextualization. It is used in grounded theory, research, design, as well as ethnographic in order to understand our data and its implications. Represents the recognition of the socially constructed nature of our world and the need to interpret and analyze our data in its particular context. We must consider the historical, political, institutional, and socio-cultural context in which our data is embedded. The trade-off of this strategy, according to Nielsen, is contextuality makes that data richer, but less generalizable. In the research and academic gender inequity, quantitative data also needs to be contextualized to make the generalization more plausible. Combining qualitative and quantitative methods increases the validity of the analysis. Counterfactual logic. This strategy increases the breadth and potential of our data to be generalized. It focuses that the factors we have stressed in our analysis are the causal ones, since it will have been difficult to imagine the outcome without them. Counterfactual logic is an important technique for making an argument and for helping us to see a pattern out of our often voluminous collection of data. This strategy focuses on considering and elimination possible counter-interpretations or counter-arguments to the story you are constructing with your data. The researcher considers all the possible arguments contrary to the one she or he is constructing, and then analyzing the data in light of these arguments.
2 minutes.
Qualification. It helps us to make sense of our data and persuade others of its robustness. Qualifying our data and our analysis by placing clear boundaries around our findings, indicating why they say and what they do not say, and in relation to which context and which theory, increases their plausibility within the wider political and social science research community. Qualification in statistical analysis often points out the limits of existing data and theory and supports arguments for additional data collection. Causal interference is the next analysis technique. It is a common analytical technique, especially in political and social science, employing quantitative, longitudinal, cross-sectional, or experimental research design. It requires you to define and measure counterfactual conditions that make up each expected causal effect. And the last one is writing. Writing it is considered by many scholars to be a form of analysis itself. The writing process is often a thinking process that suggests new categories and ways of structuring our analysis. It might reveal to the author new theoretical insights, and it might lead you to see new items in your data. As a conclusion, we might say that the quality of your analysis will greatly depend on both your skill in deploying at least some of the analytical techniques discussed previously in building an argument, the kind of data you have collected, and how well they can be used to support, test, and refine your theoretical argument. All this reminds you that you need to be accountable to your research subject participants, your research community, and your broader potential audience as you weave together the story you tell from your data.